Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name's Dychronic, host here on this Destiny 2 video, and today we're going to be telling you about the Zer's location as random rolls, my recommendations for June 18th, 2021. You can find him in his regular location on Nessus, which is over here at the Watcher's Grave. Just make your way onto this little tree right here, and this is where he is. I say little tree, the tree is massive. This is a high overview in case this is all you cared about, and oh boy, well actually we do have some good stuff here today. First up for the weapon today, we have the Jade Rabbit. And honestly, I'm not really a big fan of this. First of all, it's a 150 scout rifle, and I like my scout rifles to be around 200 to 180 RPM, so it fires a bit slow, and we don't usually need this much range, and generally, it's not very exotic. Chain body shots for more damage on the next precision, and return ammo to the magazine. That's basically just the head seeker plus triple tap. And then the other stuff is literally just regular perks, so it's not really an exotic. And honestly, like I said, I don't really like 150 scouts. And this is true with a lot of the early exotics in Destiny 2, things like Skybrenner's Oath, although it did get updated, are just not exotic enough. They're not unique. Although I will say that out of all the 150 scout rifles, it has some pretty good stats. So that is one advantage if you like those. Moving on to the Hunter exotic, we have the Mechanier's Trick Sleeve. If you've never heard of it, this is the sidearm based exotic, where it increases the sidearm ready and reload speed, and while you're critically wounded, swapping to a sidearm increases its damage. Generally, you don't really care about ready and reload speed on a sidearm because it's extremely fast anyways, and getting that extra damage bonus and trying to get critically wounded to then switch is a lot of work, where generally you could just use a shotgun and do more DPS anyways. I think that this might be better if it didn't require you to swap to a sidearm, and instead it was just while you had a sidearm, and even then you would have to be in a very deep sidearm meta. As a person who puts sidearms in my top 5 every time for PvE, I still don't think this exotic is really worth much. As far as the roll goes, total stats of 61 is alright, although I'd like to see a lot more mobility and definitely a lot more recovery. If you're going to want to use this in Crucible, resilience is okay. However, I think that they changed resilience to not interact with stasis like it used to, or at least half of it, where it's not speed based, instead it's just damage based. So overall, I don't like this exotic, and I don't like the roll. Moving on to the Titan exotic, we have the Synthoceps. Hold on one second, let me just go ahead and make that look better. Alright, if you get this ornament for it, I do think it looks a lot better. And in general, the Synthoceps is like a top 10 Titan exotic, maybe even top 5 depending on what you're doing. If you've never heard of it, increases melee lunge range by a pretty significant margin. You will definitely surprise people by how far you can melee, and you improve the melee and super damage when you're surrounded. Now this extra damage is around 50% more super and more melee damage, and I think can actually go beyond that depending on how surrounded you are. So if you're surrounded by more than 2 or 3 enemies, like 5 or 6, maybe you do more damage. I forget exactly how this works. But what I do know is you can combine it with some other melee stuff like Code of the Juggernaut, the Arc Tree, and get that extra damage melee. As long as there's like 2 enemies near you, you're just one-shot meleeing the entire time while also healing. And this is just one way to use this exotic. It's honestly very nice to have no matter what you're doing. More super damage and more melee distance and more melee damage is always really nice for both PvP and PvE. Unfortunately, the total roll here is 59, not really that great, and it's more of an even distribution, and generally with these exotics you'd like to have recovery, mobility, strength, stuff, or even intellect, honestly, for the PvE side. So not a great roll, but definitely a really great exotic. And finally, for the Warlock exotic today, we have the Transversive Steps. I believe I put this as my number 2 Warlock exotic in the entire game, and all of that really does, I keep forgetting this thing has like ornaments to make it look different, but all that it does is it increases your sprint speed and has like an auto-loading effect while sprinting with the equipped weapon. Both of which are actually really good. First of all, increased speed means you can get to places faster, you can escape danger faster, you can chase down enemies faster, and just being faster without increasing your jump height is extremely useful, especially to Warlock. On top of that, if you have very slow reloading weapons, like shotguns with a lot of pellets or a lot of slugs in them, or a 120 hand cannon for example, especially this season when they did nerf quite a number of archetypes of these slower reloading things, the aggressive frames, that made them a lot worse when it comes to reload. Maybe that was last season, I forget. At some point they were like, hey, the aggressive frame stuff, you keep maxing out all the handling and the reload and stuff, we can't have you do that because then that ruins why that thing is the way it is. And this exotic kind of circumvents that. If you want something to kind of replace that, it just does it, and it does it really well. And on top of that, it also has a pretty good roll today. First of all, total stats of 64 is the above average for the Zer, and I would recommend that total. On top of that, we have high recovery, recovery, high discipline, resilience is, you know, it's okay, but is nice in the Crucible. Personally would like to see more mobility, but can be compensated with things like powerful friends or other armor pieces with high mobility. So overall, I would say a pretty great role for one of the best exotics in the entire game. I would say the only downside to this exotic is that your character will lose all booty completely. And if you don't believe me, look, this is the regular Titan booty. Obviously the hand's in the way, but look how much bigger and thicker and curvier that is than for some reason these Warlock boots. I don't know what it is, but Bungie decided Warlocks do not get butts in this game. You can see this is the belt line. This is where the Titan was coming out from, and you can see this clear. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of the Xur. Again, make sure you're picking up your exotic ciphers if you haven't already. It basically gives you a free exotic cipher for doing the stuff you're probably already doing, which you can then use on exotic engrams or the exotic archive, of which there are a lot of really great stuff. And of course, again, make sure you get your exotic engram if you have a lot of legendary shards, because it's guaranteed to give you an exotic you've never received before, and it's going to be a high stat roll. So this is a not the best roll and really not the best exotic, but it's random. Eventually you're gonna get what you want, and I'm personally looking for a Hallowfire because I still have my Hallowfire from probably like week 3 of the entire game. Why not? Let's oh, another Ursa, Phoenix Trail, both great options. I don't think I need either one of them. We can get another exotic from the Xur. Now please, Hallowfire Heart. That's all I want. Just one Hallowfire Heart. You win some, you lose some. Actually a pretty good roll on this Ursa Furiosa. However, the roll that I got here was a 69 base with high recovery intellect. It's really, you feel real spoiled when a 66 roll that's like this with high intellect and okay recovery is something you're gonna delete. That's how you know you really made it in Destiny 2. I'm so bloody freaking rich. This high value is not very valuable. Yo! Oh my god. So the best roll that I got was the Peacekeeper. Oh damn, a 68 total high recovery, not high resilience. Damn. I don't like this exotic, but I can't just destroy a 68. What if they patch it and then it does something useful? And that's why you get the exotic engram from the Xur, because it's high stat roll. Anyways, that's pretty much the end of it. Make sure you come check out my live streams that I have right after these videos, oftentimes doing open lobbies for raids, for pinnacles. Most likely going to be doing the legs lost sector today. If you don't know, on Europa, the legend lost sector is actually legs today, and I'm finally going to go out and get those new exotics. So if you haven't already done it, this is probably going to be a good time to do it. And of course, as always, a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon. Without their help, I wouldn't really be able to do as many videos as I do. Specifically, I want to give a big thank you to Medibudu, Mom Dead, Dr. Strange, Joe Smith, Monday, Steve Bachman, Raymond Schoening, New Panther, Cole Sherman, Casey Reagan for their support on Patreon. And that's it. Hope you guys have a great day, and yeah, bye-bye.